I believe, Ian Smith, that is what they call a hiding.
Well, look, it was $1 in shortening that they were going to win the game after what they did with the ball. But to win it, they got 58 off the first 4 overs, Finch and Warner. Finch getting some good time out in the middle. But that's blazing. That is absolutely blazing. I mean, the Bangladeshi hearts would have been broken by their pretty pathetic batting display. But they had no fight at all. No tiger in the tiger this time around. So they were awful. Yeah, as you say, nearly 14 overs to spare. One of the biggest hidings, I would think, in T20 World Cup history. Bangladesh, for their point of view, Russell Domingo, the coach, and Mahmudullah, the captain. I'm not sure you'll see them again, Laura, because when they lose like that and they haven't won a game in this competition, I would be thinking heads will have to roll.
Yeah, well, speaking of heads going to roll, we looked at a game earlier today, the West Indies. I mean, they look all out to sea. Do you imagine heads are going to roll off the back of this tournament for them?
Well, players will just have to finish playing. I mean, I don't see Chris Gayle having much of a future now internationally. It was a poor tournament for him. He's immobile in the field, basically. They have to hide him. And he can only survive if he comes off with the bat in a devastating fashion. Well, he hasn't. And he doesn't do it often enough anymore. He's not the man he once was, even though he is pretty much self-proclaimed. And then you look at other members on their side who could be under pressure now. Bravo, poor tournament for Bravo. Pollard, the captain, Russell. These are guys who, ply their trade in T20 cricket, make a lot of money out of doing it as individuals. It's quite clear they couldn't come back together. They left Holder out of the original squad. They had to bring him in. No Sunil Narayan because of issues with the board. Leg spinners have just been absolute gold in this tournament, and he's one of the best in the world. We see how good he is in the IPL. They couldn't have him. It's just been a poor tournament for the West Indies. Phil Simmons is the coach there, and I would imagine they've got some real problems with Simmons and Pollard. They'll have to answer to this. But it's time that Gayle went. Surely it's on him. Ravi Rampal, I think I played against Ravi Rampal back in about 1990. What are they doing? Where are they dredging these guys back up from?
You talk about big names and needing big results on the world stage like a tournament like this, and you look at that Australian side. Adam Zampa today stepping up 5 for 19, Mitchell Starc 2 for 21. You mentioned the captain Aaron Finch with his 40 runs, and he would have really, I'm sure, been relieved and grateful for the time out in the middle. But David Warner only got 18 against a Bangladesh side who's hurting. Is this a concern though? If Australia to really capitalise on this momentum and the hiding that they gave Bangladesh today, should they be worried about David Warner and his current form, or lack thereof?
Well, they should be worried about their position in this tournament, actually. They've got an interesting game against the West Indies, and having just given the West Indies a gobful, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually got their act together in a game that means nothing to them. They'll either do that or they'll just muck around and Australia will give them a serious toweling. But that's an important game for Australia. They lose that. They have to look at a run weight situation. South Africa beat England. South Africa are through. Australia are going home, which would be a huge blow. I look at Warner. He's a bit more hit or miss than he used to be. He's a bloke that, in the end, a very high-profile player in the IPL who was dropped from the Sunrisers team for the second season in a row, lost the captaincy. His cricketing career, I won't say it's in a bit of a mess, but it's not going through one of its high points, I think it's fair to say. And he needs, going forward, he needs a really good Ashes series to sort of reinstate himself. Dynamic player, wonderful player, influential player. But when those kind of guys fall, they fall quite quickly.
Quite quickly and quite noticeably. Let's talk about the Kiwis. We watched the Blackcaps in action yesterday. Some of us are still recovering from that late night. But you mentioned on the show that you were not disappointed, but you would have liked to have seen them put their foot on the throat a little bit more against a side like Scotland.
Yeah, I did. And I'll repeat that. I don't think it was as dominant as I wanted it to be. I don't think there was any doubt that they were going to lose the game, but the way they let Scotland get as close as they did, I don't think it was a good sign. And I really think that, two or three of them might have just been going through the motions a wee bit. I mean, two bowlers got pasted. Milne in particular is a bit of an issue all of a sudden for me. Do you pick Milne? Or do you say to Jamison, we picked you in the squad initially. We picked you before Milne. do we give Jamison a crack in this game against Namibia? So they've got selection issues. I don't think they can afford to rest any batsmen. The batsmen have to keep on hitting, and when you get in a hitting mode, you don't want to sit back and let someone else have a go while you're sitting in the trenches. So they might tinker with the bowling a wee bit, and that would be only for me. There can only be Jamison and Milne.
We are taking on Namibia tonight, 11 o'clock on Sky Sport 3. Would you, when it comes to this Namibia matchup, we talk at length about the batting lineup and how Daryl Mitchell, now opening with Martin Guptill, just leaves that little bit of room in the middle to lower order there when it comes to power. Should we see maybe an elevation from, your Neeshams and even your Southies, who, can provide the extra couple of boundaries at the end of the innings? We haven't seen him with the bat. So would you like to see that? Would you like preparation for the next matchup? No disrespect to Namibia, but it is Afghanistan, a slightly trickier opponent.
Look, I'm not quite sure you should experiment. This is a World Cup, and you have a plan, and you keep implementing that plan with your best assets. That's the way I look at it. It would be nice to give someone a bat and say, look, Kane, you don't need to bat. We're chasing 90 or 100. You don't need to bat, but let's just play it as we mean to play the next one again, Afghanistan. And if we get that far, play it the way we want to play in the playoffs. And that's why I keep saying get ruthless. Don't take your foot off the pedal and just keep going with your best side in the order you want to play them. So, look, there's always a downside when a side plays well, because particularly with the bat, because you get a situation where some players who, when called upon under pressure, haven't had any time in the middle. That's just a fact of the matter. It is just a fact of the matter. Your batsmen have to be ready to do the job. Southey shouldn't be batting. If you're playing well, Southey shouldn't be batting. Shouldn't even be padding up unless you're in big trouble. And then, of course, he has to. But I just keep going. Just keep going. There's only, another 7 or 8 days of this tournament left. It's not forever. Okay, the prospect of India for some of these guys and another patch away from home. So be it. I'm afraid. They're there to win the T20 World Cup. The best way to do that is to keep the best players in form in their rightful positions, and that particularly means in the batting.
We've talked about Kane Williamson and his elbow injury that he has carried with him for quite some time now. What do you make of what you've seen from Kane so far? Kane the batsman, but also Kane the captain. Do you think he looks okay?
Yeah, I think he looks pretty relaxed. I do, really. He looks in good form. He looks in good mood. Don't read anything into a 4-ball duck. The other day against Scotland, he got strangled down the leg side. Good players that can happen to. But we know that very, very seldom Kane Williamson has a poor run of form. And he won't again. And that's another reason why he has to get back out and bat against Namibia, because he didn't get any against Scotland. So, I'm not worried about him. His demeanour looks good. In the field, he looks like he's in control. The unit looks like they're ticking over quite nicely. He's doing the right things. He's saying the right things. He's just being Kane. And for me, that's all he has to be. That's good enough.
Certainly is. You still think we can win this tournament, Smithy, if we get it right, particularly against Namibia?
Yeah, I do. I really do. It might take the bloke pretty well to keep firing. We need that. We need those big innings at the top, and we need those partnerships at the top against the quality bowling units. So Guppy's going to have to play well, and I imagine they're going to stick with Mitchell. He's come off 2 or 3 times. So for me, it's about that top 3 or 4. I had Williamson and I had Conway into the mix. They have to do the bulk of the damage when it comes to the batting. Otherwise, these other players will be under pressure on a bigger occasion against better bowling sides. And I'm still not writing off Afghanistan. I look forward to the way we play their spinners. And if we can handle that, I think we can handle most situations and go a long way yet, Laura. Yeah, big checks. There could be a big check in the mail for you because they're playing for a lot of money.
A check for me? Fantastic, Smithy. I just have to keep checking in that you think we can do it, because you are the voice of sport in this country, and I trust you. I trust your opinion. So thank you so much for your time today from the Hawke's Bay. We will catch up again with Ian Smith in this tournament, of course. Coming up, Blackcaps taking on Namibia, 11 o'clock tonight. Sky Sport 3, fast turnaround for the Blackcaps now. And then it is India taking on Scotland, another big matchup for India and their points table. 3 a.m. Sky Sport 3. We will see you tomorrow morning where we break it all down for you. See you then.